All right, I want to welcome everybody to our CES Tips pod. This is our initial or our first pod. And we have Kevin McCray from CES to tell us a little bit about some of the resume writers that are out there, the one that Gateway specifically uses, and maybe some tips or tricks. So I'm going to turn it over to Kevin right now. And every once in a while, I'll interject with some questions, but we'll kind of let you take control of this.
Okay, well, thank you, Peter. And it's always a pleasure to be in your classroom and amongst your students. And students, it's great to be with you. And I'm a career counselor, and my role here is to help our students develop their materials for their professional employment search. And resume is definitely a big part of that. We have several guides and tools to help you towards those ends of creating a resume that's going to catch the attention of a hiring manager and get you that interview. So first thing I want to do is just define, what is the resume? And it's a marketing document that is essentially your professional self in a paper or electronic form. So the point of the resume is to get you the interview. So it has that specific purpose in the job search process. So it isn't meant to necessarily get you the job, but it's certainly meant to get you that interview. And in order to do that, it has to really be eye-popping. It has to be very easy to, and I won't even say read, very easy to scan. And I know this is where graphic design students probably have an edge with your design capabilities. So let's just jump right in and
But I heard a statistic that the
yeah,
average screener looks at a resume for 30 seconds to a minute. Is that correct?
that's the same statistic that I've heard too, Peter, 30 seconds, and it is important to understand that the resume really is scanned. They're not reading it, so it's not an autobiography. It's meant to be a highlights that showcase your professional self. So really think of it as a sprinkling of your education, your competencies, your experiences, your projects, your knowledge in terms of software and tools. And it's really meant to be a sprinkling of all those things. And it's not really written in first person or using full sentences. So the first thing is to know where to find our guide, which really gives you the kind of the content and what is the resume, what should it look like. And that is on our job search resources page, which if you put in job search resources on any Google search, it'll bring you to this. And the resume is the guide's right here. We also have a text version guide if you're looking for those what we call ATS friendly resumes or text resumes, which ATS is automated tracking system, meaning the computer or the robot is essentially screening you before you get to get into the maybe pile or the no pile. But it's good to know both versions. So the resume guide here is our standard kind of traditional resume, which we think of it as a chapter on resume writing, and we go into all sorts of detail. But I would, for the purposes of this podcast, I want to show you kind of the bottom line here, which is the the examples, and we have several examples here. They're all one page. They're meant to be simplified, so just to showcase the different sections of a resume. So make sure you scan these so you can see basic reference point and what a resume should look like.
Is there any type of resume, Kevin, you feel is better for our students looking for that first job, like chronological resume, or
Yeah.
is there anyone that you guys
Mhm.
in CES would recommend
Mhm.
that some of the students that are just starting out might find to be a better type of resume at all?
Right. And that's an interesting question because, traditionally we've divided resumes into chronological or functional resumes. And all that means is chronological means a time-based resume that shows you all of your work experiences from the present back. And then a functional resume is a resume that highlights competencies or skills. Now, in reality, I would put it at 99%, maybe even 100% of resumes truly are a combination, Peter, of those two. If you think about it, most people, if not everyone, has a listing of their work history or work experiences. And then they also have a section for skills. So I would argue that the modern resume is really a blend of the chronological functional resume. So that is really what we have in our examples here. So I wouldn't get too worried about the terms, and just kind of look more at the sections. And let's go through one that just would show you the basic section. So real simple here. Some sections are required, including the heading. The second section here we call the professional summary, which is also required, and that's like a mini. It's really like a mini cover letter. It's a quick summary of your background and normally includes like a goal statement. Then we have the skills summary, or not summary, but skills section, which really just sprinkles in kind of the some of the tools and skills and software that to catch the reader's eye really quickly. Then we jump down to the education section, which is definitely a required section as well. And then we jump into the professional experience section, and that would include, of course, relevant related experience, but also any work experience, because it's important to show a work history, even if it's not in graphic design. These do not have to be paid, although paid is always better, but not everyone has paid work experience. And these will always include the title, the company, the dates, the location, and then a few bullets, normally 3 to 5 bullets, that explain what you did. And they're always written in this, what I call resume-ese. It's not your standard English sentence like, I perform this duty here. You don't write like that in a resume. You start the sentence with what's called an action verb, and that would be like installed, corrected, assisted, troubleshot, maintained, designed, and then you give this kind of like quick description of the tasks that you did. Now, this last section is an optional section, but highly recommended. And that would include any sorts of community service, any sorts of clubs. Maybe you did some project work. Maybe you volunteered. Maybe you've done some unrelated work. Maybe you did Habitat for Humanity, for example, or maybe you're the den leader at your child's scout troop or something. It's okay to put other things that are of service to society or other people that kind of round you out and show that you are not just strictly that designer, but you also have other aspects of yourself. So that was the super fast rundown of where to find our guide and what a basic resume should look like. The next thing I'd like to show you is the Resume Builder app, which we can find under the My Gateway. So go to the Career and Employment Services square in your My Gateway. And you're going to look for, it's kind of hidden. And for some reason, the logo has disappeared, but this is it. Practice with mock interviews. It's called the Big Interview Program. Its primary purpose is virtual mock interview practice. It also has a resume builder. So we're going to look at the resume builder today. When you first go in, it will
And
ask you
that's kind of for today. I'm sorry, there's a little delay here, but
yeah.
for today, that's the first thing that we want to get into is really the resumes for this particular sort of short pod. So despite the fact that it's called the Big Interview, I want to tell the students this is where they go to access the resume writing software, right?
Correct. And they have to register the first time they go in, and they need to use their Gateway email, because this is licensed to Gateway, and it won't let you in if you use a private or non-Gateway email. Once you go in,
Good point.
you're going to be greeted with a screen like this. This screen is kind of the welcome screen. And then up top here are the options. For interviewing practice, you're going to be in this area here. For resume building, you're going to be over here. So you just click on that button and it asks you, do you want to create a new resume? Which yeah, you are. You're going to either upload one if you want, and then it'll kind of pick up where you're at, or you can start from scratch. And then it will ask you to pick a template. And I always tell people stick with the black and white. Don't get too fancy. Although your field, maybe you can. I'm not sure, Peter. You probably know whether they can or not. But
And I'll just interject a real quick thing. We were talking beforehand that a lot of times graphic designers will have something that looks a little bit more visually embellished. However, we tell them that they still need to have this. In fact, the advice I had given in the past is to have two resumes. One that can be Xeroxed and faxed. Back in the olden days, they used to have these things called faxes, but one that can be Xeroxed and faxed and can be passed, around an HR department. They are predominantly concerned with content, so they're not really, too involved in looking at the design stuff. But for sure, have one when you meet with an art director or somebody that is visual, that has much more visual elements to it. That's what I've done. That's what I know several of the other instructors have done. When you meet with those folks, that's when you drag out maybe the really cool graphic resume and you share that one with them. So yes, thank you for bringing that up. That's a good point. Just a little interjection in the middle of what you're talking about.
I appreciate you clarifying that. And so we'll just pick this one for an example, just to illustrate. And then you click the save and continue, and then it adopts that template. And then essentially this turns into an interview at this point, and it's really easy. You're just filling in the questions, answering the questions, and it's going to take you through this entire menu on the left. Now, with the summary, it asks you if you want an AI kind of assist, which I would say sure, say yes and see what happens, right? And so what will happen is this depends on if you may remember on the first screen it asked you for a title. If you put graphic designer in there, it's going to then match to the title that you put in. So it'll start giving you suggestions here that are graphic design related. Now, what I found with other students is that sometimes it'll exaggerate like the extent of your knowledge and things, but the you have to always proof the AI. So if you ever do receive an AI assist, you do want to proof it and check it for truth. The skills section in this particular template, they have it kind of low in the resume, but we can move that later. But here's where you'd put some really eye-popping skills that you have, with the programs that you use and any sorts of tools or techniques or software that you really are high value, you would sprinkle those in here. And then the last section here is going to allow you to add some optional sections if you want. So languages, volunteering, community services. We don't recommend adding references to your resume. That's actually a separate document. So don't put references furnished upon request. That's not necessary. HR knows they can request your references, and it really should not be in the resume. So I would not use this one, but the other ones are all fine if you have those. You can reorder things as well. So if you're like, well, I really want my skills to be a little bit higher because maybe I don't have a lot of work experience, so I want it to be above my work experience. You can certainly shuffle the deck here and kind of put it in the order you want it. And then, the last thing is going to be how does it look? Well, we didn't really add anything, so I can't really show you right now what it's going to look like. But you can kind of see from the templates what the finished product's going to what it's going to look like. And now we have to put content in order for it to show. But from the beginning view, I think you can expect that resume is going to look like the template. So
While we're looking at those, Kevin,
mhm.
I know on the Epic sheet, we've got the Epic Challenge going on, and
Yes.
students may want to participate in that. They can potentially win prizes, right? That from
Yes.
those that complete it successfully. But
Right.
also, one of the things I think is really great is you also have something where the students can email their finished resume to CES to get review and
Yeah.
feedback to
Right.
make sure that stuff helps. Now, they get it from us, the instructors, but I don't think it ever hurts to have another set of eyes really looking at those. And so the
Correct.
folks in your department will give it a look through as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the address to send us your resume and cover letter would be ces@gtc.edu. ces@gtc.edu. And that will bring that resume right to us. We'll review it within a couple days and give you our feedback.
Yeah, so they need to give you some time to review it, right? You're not going to be able
Couple
to
days.
give it instantaneous. Give them some time, folks.
Yeah, we try to turn it around as quickly as possible. Normally a couple days. Yeah. So that's about it for the quick walkthrough on, the guide and the big interview. Um, any other information that you'd like me to cover right now, Peter?
No, I just think we're really looking at the tips and the tricks if there's anything, and I think you gave them everything. Now it's up to the students to really kind of go through the process of executing this and potentially, meeting with CES for that improvement process. I will say one thing. I think students, the fear of not getting it perfect. Um, you get it down and it's an iterative process, meaning that we constantly improve it. If you use a resume writer, that may be, like Kevin mentioned, sort of you're organizing your first draft, and then we just keep improving it. We keep working to make it a better document. I built in for most of my classes two or three rounds of revisions. I don't think that alone is going to handle it, but don't expect perfection off the bat and be a part of this process to really, like Kevin said, create this document that isn't going to get you the job, but it's kind of the entry ticket to get the interview that might get you the job.
Well said. Well said. I couldn't say it better, Peter. Thanks.
So thanks
Awesome.
again.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.